Albert Einstein said, be careful what you put in your head, because it will always be there. Choose your music wisely, because it plays a bigger part than what you realise, I think. Hi, my name's Steve. I'm a Kudos fan. I'm lucky enough to own a pair of T88s, and I work in the music industry. Where did it all start? It was 1988 in Adelaide, Australia. There was an ad in Alan's music store in Adelaide, and I saw that, and it was for like-minded people to meet up and to play Pink Floyd music and to write original music. So that was put it by a guy called Lee Smith, who's like, I guess he would be the founder of the band originally, and then we kind of turned up on the same day. We all got together, Jason the keyboard player, and blah de blah. Next thing you know, we were touring Australia, and then I had to come to England for a funeral. I'd never been to England before, and I went down to London and knocked on the door of a promoter called Harvey Goldsmith, told him that I was in this band that played Pink Floyd music. He told me to bugger off, and it was a stupid idea. So I phoned a guy called Glenn Povey, who ran it was a Pink Floyd fan club magazine called Brain Damage, and he was holding the first ever Pink Floyd convention at Wembley the next year, and he didn't have a band. It was just a pure fluke. So he booked us there, and we wrote a contract out on a serviette in the car park of a pub, and that was it. So I went back to Australia. All the lads were over the moon. We all packed in our jobs or put them on hold for a bit. We came out here, and it just took off. That's kind of what turned into the Australian Pink Floyd Show, is what I've been involved with for 36 years now. Yeah, it's just been a hell of a journey. It's been all right. We've always had this philosophy that people that grew up listening to Pink Floyd listen to the albums first and foremost. So we thought we'd try and attempt to recreate the albums as faithfully as possible, rather than do live versions or whatever. We tend to have to take like a recording studio on the road with us, because we're trying to cover 40, 50 years of different eras of music and technology that they used to record it with at the time. It's quite difficult to make a song sound really old through modern equipment, so that's quite a challenge. We're almost obsessed with it, and it's always a quest for the holy grails, and that quest never ends. And after 36 years we're still doing that, which is, it's great to be involved with a group of people that share that commitment and outlook. The reason I heard about Kudos speakers is because our front of house engineer Trevor is Derek's older brother. Trevor was just telling me about his brother's speakers and the fact that he had some prototypes of the T88s which he said he would never sell because they weren't, the finished product that he wants out there in the world. So he had these amazing speakers sat there that he couldn't really do much with. So I got the call, brought them home, plugged them all in, set them up, turned on some music, and I thought, oh, idiot, you've left the PA on. So I went to turn the PA off and realised it was off. And what I was hearing was through these Titan speakers, and I could not believe it. I was just gobsmacked. I was amazed the first time I heard them. Couldn't believe it. I've never known speakers to produce so much volume, but in perfection. It's so graceful, but you've got all the power there as well that can give you, can deliver what the energy that a live band is trying to get across. In my experience, I thought was vast with hi-fi speakers, but they always lacked that live kind of quality to them. Okay, so the space that we're sat in today, we kind of call it Aussie Floyd HQ. It's where the core band rehearses, and it's where we mix down our DVDs and any social media audio releases and CDs. This is the command centre of it all. Been here for 24 years, and pretty much it's been designed to cater for the needs of Aussie Floyd. The building itself is 124 years old. It's an old brick barn. We've put a floating floor in it to isolate the low end that these speakers in here generate. When we first moved in and turned the PA on and put music through it, the neighbour down the road came running over because the plates were shaking off of her shelves in her kitchen. And then the other half of the building is turned into a bit like an Aussie-Irish pub. When we finish rehearsing, we can go in there and shoot some pool, discuss the songs, have a couple of beers, just relax, and it just seems to work really well. So as a bit of a tribute to the music that I grew up on, I put this little display shelf together, which is all of my go-to albums and DVDs and whatnot. And then I kind of dressed it up a bit by putting some of these old model cars and robots and things. And they were things that I collected when I was a child, when I was a boy. I was a big fan of Jerry Anderson and the Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet and Joe 90 and all that, and they had all these sound effects, these incredible sound effects, which at that age we never heard sound effects like that in movies before, so I was fascinated with that. I started making sound effects as a kid with this old reel-to-reel machine, and I found if I recorded my sister's hairdryer on high speed, played it back at low speed, it sounded identical to Thunderbird 2. So that was a breakthrough for me as a kid, as daft as it may seem. It is an odd combination of equipment in here. There are some really high-end pieces of kit, but then there's some really low-end ropey stuff as well. From a beautiful racehorse to a hairy goat. You know, but it seems to work. It works for our needs, you know. They're all tools to try and emulate the recordings of Pink Floyd. To start off at the heart of everything, on the work side of things, is obviously the recording setup, and that's just using an iMac, which we run with Pro Tools, Logic and Ableton as well. Back in the early days in Australia, we used to do all of our mastering on Super VHS hi-fi videos, which is why these machines are here. We're kind of making a documentary type thing of archives with that as well. That's a Kempler, which is like a profiler, so that actually captures the acoustic behaviour of amplifiers and speakers. Got a fantastic pair of speakers there, the C10s, which are Kudos. And obviously you want something which is going to recreate the music absolutely faithfully and accurately and not colour it in any way. We also have other speakers that we use for reference. I do use the T88s when I want something a bit louder, and then I've also got a PA in there as well, which is loud enough for a club. And that really flushes out if there's anything dangerous going on in the low end, or any particularly, you know, nasty transients or mid-frequencies that can hurt if someone's in the audience sat there. Sometimes to get the sound to reach the back of the venue, they've got to be so loud that if you're sat at the front, it can be scary. So all of the sounds that we're going to be spitting out to the audience, you've got to make sure that they're not going to hurt and do any damage as well. So the Kudoses play a really important part. They're the detailed side of things. They provide what you need to work with so you can really hear what you're doing. Amplifiers wise, my main amplifier that I use, which I really love, is a Perot, which is a New Zealand company. That's from the 70s, and it's a real classic amplifier. Won loads of awards and it's highly respected. Beautiful sound to it, and that with the Kudoses have kind of become my extension of my ears. We obviously produce a lot of recordings of us playing live. So what I like about the Kudos is this is where I start to really get some volume going, and I can sit there and close my eyes and I'm sat at a gig, listening. There's a band in front of me, you know, and they kind of recreate that accuracy and the detail and the whole atmosphere and vibe. When you listen to music, it has to be a certain volume, I think, to invoke certain emotions. If it's too quiet, it's not going to happen. I haven't found a better speaker than the Kudoses to use as a brilliant tool in that sense. And then, of course, you can, you know, the gloves come off and then you can have a lot of fun with them. They're just a very versatile speaker. I think once you get used to those speakers, you kind of would be lost without them. There's a lot of gear that I think when it breaks and dies, there'll be something bigger and better out there, but I rely on them so much now. I'd have to be, don't tell Derek this, but I'd have to go and buy a brand new pair from him. If you love your music, just do it. Just buy them, because it's an investment in your happiness. The pleasure they'll give you as a listener is hard to put into words. But if you're into your hi-fi and that's your thing, then I think you'd struggle to find a better speaker. I really do. Derek and everyone at Kudos, it's a real obsession and a passion. Without that passion, it's difficult to achieve something really special. And I think that's what Derek does. I almost ended up being a drummer. I got this little drum kit when I was about 7 or 8 years old for Christmas, and I sat on it and played it. Well, I wouldn't say play, I made noise on it all day, an all-day Boxing Day. But then when I woke up on the next day, it was gone. And my parents had taken it back to the shop because they couldn't stand the noise. But I kind of thank them for that, otherwise I wouldn't be a guitarist. And playing guitar is much cooler. So there you go.